Hello, everyone. That may be the last time you see the Philosophy for the People intro here on TIR and GTAA, because Ben has kindly reminded us that he left this show like a year ago, but we're still using the name of his Substack for our videos. And not exactly because we are like desperate to hang on the grand successes of his Substack, but rather just because we haven't thought of a new name. It was been suggested by Jason and then supported by Ben and by Barn that we rename the show TIR The Next Generation, which I find funny because it's meant to indicate the youth of me and Quinn. But that does that with a reference to a TV program that came up before either of us were born.
Yeah. Yeah. Catch us in 6 months when we change the name to TAR Voyager.
Yeah, today we're going to be talking about Looksmaxxing, and Looksmaxxing in the context of like social activism, in the context of like if you realize that you're a low status guy, is it better to become a leftist or is it better to hit yourself in the face with a hammer? And I'm going to argue today it's better to do the hammering. We have a variety of comments I'd like to go through before we begin, which I found amusing. Hyperverbal says rationality. They just take a stack for that, which I found amusing. A stack is like a combination of drugs to achieve a certain end. And then Soon has made us a poem or a song, perhaps. A weakling weighing 98 pounds will get sand in his face when kicked to the floor, and soon in the gym with a determined chin, the sweat from his pores, he works for his cause. We'll make him glisten and gleam with massage. No, sorry. We'll make him glisten and gleam with massage. I don't know. I'm not sure that one scans. We'll make him glisten and gleam with a little massage, with a little bit of steam. He'll eat nutrition.
You gotta put the pause before steam. There's a pregnant pause there.
He'll eat nutritious.
Have you not seen Rocky Horror recently?
No. He'll eat nutritious, high protein, and swallow raw raisins. Try to build up his shoulders, his chest, his arms, his legs. Such an effort. If you only knew our
plan.
Our plan is 7 days. I can make you a man.
Just 7 days. I can make you a man.
And then spiritual Uranus. Said, of course, it's rational and perfectly healthy too, but it's pathetic. It means putting women on a pedestal. And that's actually something I wanted to talk about today. How Looksmaxxing is a break with traditional inceldom, what we might call classic inceldom, in the sense that actually the allegedly radical part of Looksmaxxing is in fact like a recapitulation of like the advice that low status young men would get in the 2000s and early 2010s, where it's like, you should take a shower, you should fix your hair, you should learn like some strategy for interacting with women, and is not actually normally engaged in grievance politics, or at least the grievance politics is put way to the side. I'm just going to try and think of a way. Can I transfer this image in here to a way that isn't very annoying? I guess I can just show everyone my...
You're gonna hold up your phone to the camera?
No, I'm going to just share the tab, which I'd pasted the tweet into. So I was triggered to do this episode by reading this tweet, which said, Looksmaxxers have recognized the unfairness of a society which enforces a hierarchy based on immutable aesthetic differences, but instead of taking that to its logical conclusion, fight for social justice, they've taken to its illogical conclusion, hit yourself with hammers. And I read that and I was like, that doesn't make any sense. There's really, really no... Well, there may be an immediate reward to engaging with social justice, and there may be medium or long-term rewards, but almost certainly those rewards are not going to be social justice for you or for anyone else. These are big movements, big systems, which are going to probably succeed or fail regardless of what you do. which is not to say that it's not unvirtuous for you to engage with them. But if your problem, if your concern is I'm a low status guy, I'm a low status person, I have all these problems and I have all these difficulties, the struggle for social justice in of itself is not going to help you.
Yeah, I'll put a caveat in that, in that like sometimes socialization is actually like its own benefit.
Right, and that's
Like,
the other side to it. Like the way that joining the DSA can be beneficial is the same reason that like joining a Magic the Gathering club or a D&D club can be beneficial for
yeah,
you. In that you make friends. You might meet a nice lady there. There'll be quite a few ladies there.
there's also like if you're if you don't have a very developed personality, let's say, um, being forced to interact with other people is probably conducive to longer term success in other areas. Like
And also,
being
this one is
being
more dependent on like what stage of woke your group is in. But
sure.
as with D&D and as with Magic the Gathering groups, there is at least a tendency for leftist groups to be more tolerant of people with fucked up, shitty social skills.
Yep.
So you can go there and learn to be normal, which is a funny thing for a person to do at DSA, but I think is actually true. And I think this is like a very consequential thing for how we should think about being leftist and so on, because for a person, I don't think it's rational in like a game theory sense to become a communist, or at least to attempt to fight against the system in this sense. It's maybe rational in the game theory sense for the proletarian class to generally do that. Almost certainly this is the case. But if we look at, say, the Bolsheviks, the old Bolsheviks, they won that revolution. Things went as well for them as they could be, and the amount of like old Bolsheviks who died in the about 20 to 30 years between them kind of starting their main revolutionary period and that ending, about 100% of them died. The attritional rate for old Bolsheviks was approximately 100%. Obviously, that's not going to happen to you in DSA, probably. But that's only because you won't be up to the same sort of things. Red Droga says, I thought this started at 4. There is still confusions and difficulties about what time the show starts at, and I haven't fully drilled them into the systems or to the people who are with me, or I think even into my own brain, because I think I also say it wrong sometimes. But yes, it's meant to start now.
It's meant to start at the time you don't think it is.
Yeah. Whatever the audience is planning for, whatever my co-hosts are planning for, it's the other one.
Mm-hmm. And actually, we've got a system in place that once everyone figures out the new time, we're going to change it back or change it to a new time that nobody knows.
And you might not think there could be that much difficulty when it's only just 1 hour or less, but we can make a lot of problems out of nothing. We can make many molehills out of not much at all. Yeah, it became an hour earlier for me when the clocks changed, and then that was just so much better for me that I really wanted to stick with it. So I've been trying to do that, though we haven't always succeeded in doing so.
It is now 3 hours earlier for me because I just drove to California.
Oh, you're still on the West Coast?
Yep. Yeah. No, got on Friday.
I thought because of this cool room that you were in the room of your own making.
This is a room of my own making when I was 14.
I was going to say, is this a childhood home?
Yes, this is a childhood home. It's got all kinds of crap. There's
Well, I apologize for not asking if you were going to go down to the George Lucas Museum of Narrative Art.
No. Also, it's not open till September.
Oh. Okay. Also, why not? It looks cool.
I have better things to do than go down to LA. As a
Wait, did you not just? Wait, did you? Oh, sorry. You said West Coast. I just assumed LA. You were like SF. Where are you?
Yeah, Bay Area.
Okay.
Come on. No. As a good
No,
Marionette,
every fact I learned about American geography and politics is like is imperialism of my mind.
yeah, no, we consider SoCal as rarely as possible,
Yeah,
and with a little bit of hate in our hearts.
yeah. No, I just did one of those things of like, why don't you just drive from Ontario to Vancouver or whatever?
Yeah, I think I'm like an 8 hour drive from Jason,
Yeah, so like the length of Britain.
basically.
Yeah, so my suggestion is that if you realize something is unfair in a society because of a fungible attribute that people have, trying to change generally that social impression of that attribute is obviously way, way harder, and your efforts are going to be way, way less effective than trying to change the actual attribute in yourself. And this is much more relevant for something like attractiveness, for beauty, than for race or whatever. Um, there's a very strong sense in which your race is non-fungible, or at least depending on what you look like, you might have very few options about what races you can go into or transition into, even with great effort on your part. But with being ugly or being attractive, this is sometimes treated as like something which is very hard to change. But I think for most people, it is quite easy to change. There are certain people who are like, what's the incel terminology? Do you remember for someone who's just fucked?
Um,
I think true cell is like adjacent, but not exactly, because I think you mean true cell without.
yeah, it's like
Oh, yeah, NGMI, not gonna make it.
oh, sure. Yeah, well, but like that's I don't think that that's like it is used for that, but like that's a
Yeah,
kind of
because also
broader term.
NGMI can be like spiritually.
Yeah. I I don't know if they've fully disaggregated their terms. Um, it seems like the kind of like stupid nerd shit that they would do, but
Yeah, it probably
I
exists,
can't
but
think of
it hasn't become mainstream because
yeah.
only the real good stuff does.
Are we gonna get into that? Are we gonna get into the real good stuff of the incel movement?
I'm a Democrat, so whatever's popular, I believe is good.
Okay, cool.
Um, ugly or poor or whatever else, though as I just said, race is probably an exception. Um, the rational game theory thing to do is never to change the whole system; it's to change yourself. You can become attractive, you can become rich. Like that's really hard, depending on your circumstances, but it's a lot easier than overthrowing capitalism. It's a lot easier than like deleting beauty standards. I guess the point of the Twitter poster that so grieved me was not to abolish beauty standards or whatever, but to basically reduce reduce how much it matters by reducing how much status in our society then determines your life outcomes or something like this. But
Mhm.
regardless, that's still really, really hard. Anything to do with changing society as opposed to changing yourself is really, really hard. Um, I think there's a weird sort of politics or thought which kind of rejects that, which gets really deep into identitarian stuff and has this weird sort of view where it's possible to change society, but it's not really possible to change yourself.
Yeah, and I think that we saw a little bit of this in some of the like way back in the day. I mean, if Ben was still here, he could probably speak to it because he was like there. But the reactions to Jordan Peterson,
Mm.
because I
I
think
think
that
people were really offended, not that he was saying things stupidly, but just like the premise of it.
yeah, and like the reason that I think Jordan Peterson has any kind of following is because along with the crazy and stupid shit that he said, he gave some like kind of basic but good advice that like, hey, you should probably like take care of yourself and the space that you live in and like try to like it is this very like simple like yeah, changing the world is hard. You can change yourself. You should probably focus on that first.
Yeah.
And he takes that to a bit of an irrational conclusion that, uh, ultimate alienation and fucking like you actually can't change the world at all and you shouldn't try and all that you should do is like I think Jordan Peterson's philosophy is kind of uh, the crossover with true committed Looksmaxxers is pretty steep. There's a lot of that Venn diagram is it's pretty darn close.
Yeah, yeah. I think the decided difference with a a real communist movement or ever is when you do hit up upon these things that can't be changed.
Hmm.
Uh, that there are things ultimately like alienation, which are just inherent to capitalism and will affect everyone within it. But there are other things like just being low status, being looked down upon, people just generally not treating you very well, and so on, which are fungible problems, problems which can be solved within capitalism. Stewart says the discrimination returns have been pretty right, so the maxing part doesn't make sense. I think this is something which I haven't really have in my notes, but we should discuss, which is what do we mean when we say looks maxing, right? Um, because I think it's viewed as a very extreme kind of beauty movement, which is beyond the pale of everything else. But that's not really my understanding of it. I think because it's a male movement, there's like a self-circular thing of being like, we're fucking crazy guys, we're taking meth, and our dicks don't work, and we're hitting our face in with hammers and shit. But I think hitting yourself in the face with a hammer is much less like harmful to you, much less crazy or whatever, than say like injecting Botox.
I'm a little skeptical.
That's not intuitive to you, Quinn.
Well, like it seems like both are kind of semi-invasive uh, uh, cosmetic
Well, hitting yourself with a
surgical
hammer is not invasive
approaches.
at all.
Well, but the effect is, right? You're breaking the bones under it.
Yeah, yeah, it's like a combination of like stimulating muscle growth and like doing micro breaks in your bone. Yeah,
Yeah, so that you're still the effect is still like subdermal.
but like Botox is like injecting like a weird poison to freeze your muscles.
Yeah. Yeah, and it has it can shift in a weird way and that's kind of fucked up, but like at the end of the day it's still um a cosmetic procedure that has some health risks, but makes you look a little hotter. Just one is done in your own room and one is done by you know, uh not a real nurse, but someone who is putting on the costume of one.
Yeah, I think we need to do harm reduction for looks maxing and get like the doctor to hit you in the face with a hammer.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Or at least like a trained professional.
Yeah, and they could
Go
use
to,
one of those little doctor hammers too, right? That they use on your knees.
yeah, yeah. And so you go to the med spa at the strip mall, and with your Botox injection, you can get uh, a light hammering.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think I'm not trying to suggest that looks maxing is not extreme when it's taken to the extreme by certain people, but that it's probably less extreme, less deadly, less worrisome, has a less general negative social effect than kind of mainstream, normal, mainly female orientated beauty movements. Like people die from BBLs, from breast augmentations, from all this sort of stuff. Uh,
Yeah, or just like the kind of baseline level of disordered eating that exists because of beauty standards. Um,
which which sadly looks maxing is also like very
oh
much
yeah,
it.
but I think that you know there is some pretty significant and extreme risk in dealing with untested peptide stacks,
Yeah.
right? Um, and combining that, the peptides on their own, I think the peptides on their own are maybe risky, but like we don't know almost anything about the like cumulative effects of mixing peptides with each other and with other whether it's just like straight up tea or like Anavar or other gear, or like you know, in the clavicular case, just straight up math.
Yeah.
And so I find it hard to think that, like, at least hard to comment responsibly that maybe this is safer, because I don't think we know.
Yeah, I think that it's less. I want to suggest that we can be definitively sure that Looksmaxxing is safe, but more to signal that it's getting a lot of heat. That mainstream, at the very least, mainstream female-orientated beauty movements should receive the same sort of pressure and concern or whatever, because they're also much more mainstream. But of course, because they are large industries, they're much less likely to face the sort of criticism. Hitting yourself in the face with a hammer, it's free. Basically communism.
You know, you make a strong argument.
Yeah. We've decommodified beauty through hitting ourselves in the face with hammers.
Yeah. Why get a what is it, like a gua sha, when you can just hit the Home Depot?
Connor's hoping how to mog on the foils today. The thing is, I don't think you mog. You don't mog foils, right? You mog moids.
Yeah, I at least that's my understanding. I think the more you kind of subsume yourself into the worlds of Looksmaxxing, the less you think about voids. Like, they're not.
Yeah.
They may be a you know, a gateway drug, or something to, like, bring you in the door, but by the time you're putting together a serious stack.
Yeah, Soon would like to clarify, and we all, of course, support their statement in this. This is not medical advice.
Except for this medical advice, don't listen to shit we say.
This is beauty advice.
Which also
Yeah,
I'm not sure we're qualified for. But
we should start the stream doing the whole thing where they go like, "Look satisfying" would be better. Agreed, Stuart. That would be a good movement. If there was like, I mean, a men, like, literally a literal recapitulation. I mean, that's basically what the Canadian man that you mentioned earlier. That's what basically Jordan Peterson is, right? He wasn't about maximizing anything. He was about, like, try and become like a functional young man. It was all just couched in, like, right wing dragon stuff language. But that was the basic point. Try to be a satisfactory young man.
I think it was the other way around. That the, you know, try to be at least a satisfying, be the minimum viable, you know, functional adult first.
Yeah.
And then wait till you hear about these dragons.
Red, Foid is a female, a lady. A Moid is a man, a male.
I think Foid is kind of funny because it's like, female, not a great term to start with, was too humanizing.
Yeah.
For the incels, so they changed it to femoid.
Yeah.
And then that was just too.
Which is downstream of mongoloid.
Yes. Yeah. And that femoid was too many syllables.
Yeah. It doesn't
so it got shortened down to foid.
But funny enough, Moid could just be mongoloid. That could be a contraction of mongoloid.
You're not wrong. So yes, Connor, this is all like downstream of weird racist internet culture. So it's got references to archaic race science that is like partly like vice signaling, like, hey, guess what, guys, I'm also racist like you. But I think also it's like, hey, look at us, we're secretly smart. We're using words from the 1800s because we think they make us sound like we read books.
Should we do a vice signaling episode next week?
We can do vice signaling, sure. It's that's like a whole cottage industry at this point. Like,
I saw one where a guy was like, my 8-year-old asked me what a war crime is, and I said there's laws and war, and he said that's dumb. There shouldn't be laws and war, and then he just didn't have any further comment. Presumably, he was trying to indicate that the 8-year-old is intuitively correct.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think we should take all of our policy instructions from 8-year-olds.
Whatever they find intuitive, they know the truth. They haven't been corrupted by libtards in school and so on and so forth. Once you've learned long division, you've already been corrupted by the system.
The system, the Matrix. The Matrix is coming for all of us.
Specifically on beauty, I wanted to say that very much thankfully, the left has yet to bring to bear a significant critique of beauty. Because obviously it is the case that more attractive people are treated better. But this is a sort of inequality that I can't see getting solved in any way that's positive. The only kind of positive social activism I can see here is efforts to kind of change beauty standards in such a way as to be accepting of more forms of global beauty. But I don't think this is a solution in any way for the common average person, because I think structurally beauty is rare. And that's also something which makes Looksmaxxing almost democratic, in the sense if we all Looksmax, then the amount of mogging goes down. If everyone is beautiful, no one is.
Yeah, but like, I do think that there's something about it being specifically rare. Like we see this in the like the beauty industry, if we can call it that. Like increasingly, models do not look like they did 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Like you models are scouted for like unique looks, not necessarily like what would be traditionally beautiful like 10, 15 years ago. I think Balenciaga is probably the biggest pusher in that space. That they were looking for like, oh yeah, let's find some real weird looking people to put on our ad campaigns. And it worked.
Yeah.
It got people to look up. And when there's already like, I think that's the response to like commodified beauty. Or when beauty is made a lot more common. When it's a lot easier just to go to Dr. Miami, get your shit fixed up, go get your photos retouched, and then put that on an ad campaign. People stop looking up. Like,
and I think there's a interesting development with female-orientated beauty movements, in that they become less about trying to become generically beautiful, as opposed to signaling a certain like in-group status. Like for instance, the fake tan thing in the UK. It used to be the case that you'd put fake tan on in the UK as a woman or a guy. There's also guys who do the same sort of shade in order to pretend that you had a tan. In order to pretend you'd recently been on holiday, that you're able to engage in leisure, and that you generally look attractive and blah, blah, blah. It performed various kinds of social signaling, but was only taken up by a certain group of people. But then there was an evolution of how fake tan worked, and that people would go oranger and oranger until you couldn't possibly mistake them for actually having a tan. You instead would immediately identify them as having fake tan. And that was because that became a signal of being a certain kind of like gregarious, outgoing, I won't use less impolite terms, but I'm sure you can see where I'm going, sort of young woman. Even though the initial kind of idea is lost, and just the tan, the spray tan signals itself, you know. It doesn't point to anything outside of it. That's not true. Why are women considered mostly beautiful? It's not rare yet powerful. Women are not generally considered beautiful. People will say that, but it's not true. This is like pure lies your grandma told you. But it's not just your grandma told you. Like women do actually say this a lot, but it's not the case. They don't believe it, and neither do most people. Um, it is something that you may struggle with um, if you're like an autistic young man, as well with all the other various things that kind of I was mentioning earlier. There's this kind of the structure that was presented in the early 2000s and 2010s of like we were entering like a dating crisis of heterosexuality, and it was told that all you need to do to find a girlfriend is to shower and make yourself decent and so on and so forth. And until then was a reaction in significant part to this, like the idea that you just need to be a nice guy to get a girlfriend or whatever. But there was this contradiction where these young men were taking literally what was in fact mainly women engaging in kind of signaling where you say these things but you don't believe them. You're saying
Yes.
things you would like to be true but aren't true. You're saying nice things and kind things which are not, but it's not like kind of lies. Sometimes they might not be aware that what they're saying is not true, and other times they may be.
Let's see. Are we checking the chat?
Yeah. And this is another part that it's not about actually, we've discussed this before in previous shows. It's not actually about having sex with women. It's about having the status such that you would be allowed to do so if you tried. And we discussed this, of course, with the fact that quite often, I think Clavicular is trying to solve this at the moment by going off his stack. But it's very often where, in no conventional sense, could he have had sex, and certainly could not have reproductive sex. But that didn't matter within this kind of sort of structure, because the point was clearly proven that he was attractive, he was desirable, and so on, and that's what matters. It's just for guys, as opposed to being a woman, where you can be pretty sure, or they believe they can be sure of when someone is attracted to them. Guys don't have this feeling, and they have a distinction also between like a woman who's willing to date you, or whatever, but that doesn't matter if she in the end wouldn't have sex with you, instead would have sex with some other guy. So actually having sex is the only way to kind of prove to yourself and prove to everyone else that you would actually have this, you do actually have this status. Hi.
Yeah. Hey, welcome.
And now I can even.
Cool.
Oh.
Hello, Kuba.
Hello. I was traveling from Ottawa today, and the time zones, man. Time zones.
I was joking earlier about people saying, "Oh, just drive across Canada, come see me." But Kuba was presumably on a plane.
Unfortunately, some people, you get too old for the drive.
I mean, it would be like what, 18 hours?
18, and no, it would be closer to 30.
Yeah.
Damn. I wish
18 hours.
I wish StreamYard would show me more of chat at once. So I'm just. Kuba just time mogged Stefan and Quinn, leaving them in a state of construction.
Cortisol spiking. Boom.
I That's one thing I really do hate about contemporary culture, where people will not say stressed or happy or whatever. They'll all be like dopamine, serotonin, cortisol, whatever the fuck. When they don't know, they have no idea
Everything's a
what these things are.
neurotransmitter.
Yeah, everything's a neurotransmitter, but they don't know anything about these neurotransmitters. Like at least with happiness or something, you have like an intuitive social grasp of these things. You don't know what the fuck dopamine is. You don't know what the fuck serotonin is.
It's downstream of a psychiatric strain of thought that's also completely misguided. That like you can understand brain states as purely neurochemical and not like neurochemical responses as a result of the brain states. It's like it's pop science that's like, oh,
And that
yeah,
there's somehow a greater precision.
Yeah. And it's fake. It's fugazi. It's an illusion to make you feel like you have control over the chaos that is fucking like neurons firing and the weird kind of really poorly understood shit that's going on in all of our heads.
20 Face says, these discussions make me feel like the right wing have a point on gender. The right wing often has a point on things, especially in cases where like leftists don't want to touch like an internal third rail. The problem is their solutions are always 100% fucking dog shit. Like just beyond dog shit, actively counterproductive. But obviously, like lots of right wing people aren't stupid, and so can readily identify social contradictions. They're within an ideology which makes
the important thing is recognizing that the agenda, the program never changes regardless of the critique presented. So one year it's, oh, gender distinctions are real and we need to take them seriously, therefore no immigration, right?
Yeah.
Next year, women find moving from careers into family formation and back very stressful and challenging, therefore no immigration, right? It doesn't matter. Permissive drugs and homelessness policies lead to decaying and unsafe urban environments. Therefore, no immigration. Yeah, there we go. There's basically two separate intellectual tracks in the reactionary mind. One which can sometimes accurately diagnose the social problem. It's perfectly accepting of rational inquiry and cogent discussion, and then the other one which just preserves reptilian lizard brain conservatism and this fetish for a glorious past and hierarchy, and never the twain shall meet.
There's the conservatives never let something as petty as the premises interrupt with a good conclusion.
Frame mogging. Oh no.
All I can do with these guys is time mog. That's the best. So perhaps
time mog.
Headphones mog.
Headphone mog. Oh, there's a good comment on the lost again. Oh well.
I did notice that Stefan is like very close. Stefan is close to wearing like a Kuba costume. I feel almost like I need to.
I'm laughing with Kuba right now.
Yeah, all you're missing is the tie. I think you know that you can't dare, right? That the retaliation would be much too total and complete if you were to take that final step.
That's developed out in Ewok that are what's the Ewok planet?
Oh, Endor.
Endor. He's got some assets out in Endor that are ready and willing to do his bidding.
The thing with the UK is, as soon as it gets above like 20 degrees, inside your house it becomes like 40 degrees. So my what I've been wearing is like mostly an unbuttoned shirt because that's the least. That's how you can wear a shirt while wearing the least of a shirt. So I was wearing that, and then I was like, well, I want to put the cool jumper on, and then yeah, and then you just Kuba laughing.
Noted, gentlemen.
Yeah, we did discuss. We were discussing fucking Botox earlier, and what I was going to say is, Looksmaxxers may engage in various extreme tactics, but just because you're engaged, like bad tactics don't make a bad strategy. The fundamental premise of Looksmaxxing, the fundamental idea, is you can improve your social standing by taking various measures to improve your appearance. And this is just true, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
the one of the lessons that I received from the military-industrial complex, which sometimes I observe more in the breach, is that sharp, neat haircut makes everyone, regardless of whether or not it's age appropriate, start to call you sir.
Yeah, and obviously there's, beauty and appearance is not, it's much more multifaceted, and that's probably a place where Looksmaxxing fails. My hair might get me plenty of compliments on here and elsewhere, but at the same time, it does make me referred to by all women as love or darling or babe or whatever, which if you're in an environment where you're trying to Sir Max is not useful.
It's true. And thanks to the willingness of reactionaries to observe, to embrace things like Looksmaxxing, you end up old-fashioned, if you'll pardon the expression, look sartorially, and in terms of grooming, becomes conservative coded, which then means that you have this both intrinsic sorting mechanism where people who have less conventional fashion sense feel more put upon to office max, and simultaneously it becomes very easy for those who want to weed out less conventional people with less conventional politics, to pick them out, to identify who are good prospects for their team versus the opposite. One of the first lessons I got about going to protests was, in fact, when I was at Berkeley, the days that I looked most conservative, most Mormon-like, most likely to hand you a pamphlet from the Church of Latter-day Saints, was when I was going to a protest. Because, especially in California, there is a shortage of clean-cut white boys supporting leftist causes. Therefore, you're at a real premium. And it can change people's narratives and interpretations when they see a group and it's like, oh, that looks like such a nice young man. Clearly, they can't all be trans-maxing, Marx-maxing, anti-faxing, moggers.
Yes, Kuba, you're entirely correct. But that has reminded me of a photograph of myself I'm trying to get now.
This is going to be the tanks coming down Telegraph?
Colin said, the thing that's weird about Looksmaxxing is that they only believe in the malleability of nature. It's not really essentialist. You can change your body. And this is interesting also. It's, I think, the clear reason that there's, while clearly a right-wing movement, completely associated with the right wing, probably invariably so, Looksmaxxing is like also almost always ambivalent about transgender stuff. Because,
they don't seem to care.
They don't care at all. I know, of course, they don't take this up themselves, but they're obviously often compared to being male-to-male trans men or whatever, in the sense of the radical transformation that they put themselves through.
It requires the same on a regulatory framework, it requires a similar level of body autonomy.
Yeah.
The types of radical interventions that Lookmaxxers endorse, especially if you're not naturally clavicular. Aww. Aww.
So
It's a wild Stefan cub.
I saw this photograph of and my friend that saw it was like, what the fuck were you protesting then? And I was like, fuck me, look at that hair. Jesus Christ.
Yep.
Do you think if I went to a, well, not a barber, a hairdresser for ladies, and I showed them this photograph, they would look at me.
They would be jealous. They would be deeply envious.
Do you think they'd be like, why are you surrounded by the police?
No,
they'll try to talk you into getting bangs, but only out of malicious envy and spite.
Another old activism photo I showed, I still had a fringe, and wow, fucking hell, it's dog shit. But yeah, this was great. Look at me. I'm not just defying the regime, but I'm also wearing my terrorist garb. I'm doing the exact opposite of Kuba. I'm going around wearing Rote Army faction jumper because I was a fucking edgy fucking bitch.
Exactly. You were probably reactionary clavicular style Lookmaxxer who's there in Balenciaga castaway clothes to discredit the rest of the movement, right?
Yeah.
It's just actually a group of very respectable looking old British white people next to you, right? All being beaten by police who are just like, see, they're with him. They're with Antifa over here.
Yeah, there's a reason.
Also, you're doing blue steel. I know that expression.
Yeah, there's a reason they let me keep sitting down there as the last person there. They knew I was part of the regime.
They saw that coat and was like, all right, this is one of our guys. He's got to be on payroll, otherwise why would he be wearing this?
It's not Aryan. Why Aryan shaped?
It is interesting what the relationship is between Looksmaxxing and inceldom. Because I said as we basically opened up the show, I think there's a pretty radical rupture going on here, where classical inceldom never became a political movement, or didn't become a men's rights movement or anything like this. It never progressed beyond like online wilding and then intermittent terrorism. But in its structure, it was identity politics, grievance politics, basically, of which there's many forms in our society. They were making a claim as a group that was badly off, as low status young men, or however you like to put it, that society should change in such a way as to benefit them. Of course, there was never, because it never became a political movement, there was never a central claim here. This is where the jokes about state-mandated girlfriends started. But I think sometimes when people on the right try and engage with that in a more serious way, like not ever reaching actual seriousness, but trying to run that sort of program more, they think of ways in which low status young men are more likely, policies they can implement so that low status young men are more likely to have a partner. And that's something that's not present at all in Looksmaxxing. Looksmaxxing is listening to what your mum told you. It's like the Jordan Peterson stuff in that way, you know. It's like tidying your room. Your mum or whatever told you to get a haircut and to shower and to hit yourself in the face with a hammer and learn how to interact with women, and then you'd get a girlfriend. And this is the radical, scary politics of Looksmaxxing. It is just what your mum or your auntie or your grandma or whatever else told young men in the 2000s and the 2010s.
But, you know, taken to an extreme, I think.
Yeah.
As soon as you introduce, because there's a similar overall assessment scheme between incels and Looksmaxxers. The difference is what you're going to do about it, right? The incel culture is all about demotivation and surrender, whereas Looksmaxxing is just, it's the next iteration of the generic young male self-help.
Yeah, I used to refer to
impulse.
Incel as a self-harm movement.
That is funny. That hits. Yeah. And the within the self-help paradigm, right? Whenever the hammers come out, whenever you're modifying bone, right? That's generally a sign that you should take a step back. However, up to a certain line, right? The sort of optimum attitude for self-maxing is a recognition of structural barriers, but not from a totalizing perspective, but from a diagnostic one. And then an absolutely ruthless strategy for self-transformation and also adjustment to fit through the structural barriers that you can, to evade them, to sometimes take advantage of them. Part of Looksmaxxing is normative, where it's not just a claim that better people, or rather more attractive people, better looking people, have easier lives, but that they should have easier lives. And you're not challenging that. You're not going for body positivity, but instead just the ruthless individual competition to get to the top of that pyramid. And once you're there, no one's trying to unseat you. They're trying to join you.
Well, I feel like I can't tell with Looksmaxxers whether or not it's a real like normative program that, you know, they should be on top, or just that it is a diagnostic. Beautiful people do end up on top. We are not powerful enough to change that, so we shouldn't try.
I think the normative bit is like the case where Clive went and he was put in probation, and he faced a judge, and that judge was very attractive. I don't think it's objectively that the judge mogged him, and the judge was much more attractive than the previous one. They previously said that he got mogged by a journalist, which the guy was just like, all right. I think he seemed better looking because he was just more animate and smiling. Than our friend. But the judge that sent him his probation, he was a real knockout. I think the normative dimension appears when people are like, he got mobbed. And he's like, he didn't get mobbed. He didn't get mobbed. He's good. He's done the things. Therefore, he is there.
It's that, what's the drill tweet? Is no, I am not owned.
Yes.
It is you, sir.
It's the challenge of whether or not you're creating an elite that everybody else should recognize, or if you're describing a condition in which, regardless of the objectively high level of any pair of men, it's a competitive environment, right? Like every contact is a contest. No way around it. Somebody's going to get mogged. Somebody's going to get, maybe we should start bogged for beta male of group, right? You could go all the way down.
I don't know if you two are familiar, but bogged is already a term among 4chan people.
Is that when you
go on?
Bogged refers to the Boggendorf brothers, who were two French scientists, who
the twins.
Yes, who faked their PhD in the 90s, and then went on to become alternative science medicine sort of guys, who got really extensive facial surgeries. Like it was like a pre of like Laura Loomer and
it was like the cat lady. It was the 90s era woman. There was only one competitor to Michael Jackson for most intense surgical face transformation, and that was this woman who actually wanted to become a cat.
I think more and more Guinness World of Records. I don't know what record she could possibly have, but most surgical.
Most leonine.
Yeah.
I'm
Quinn, can you
disappointed.
Google the Bogdanov brothers, please?
Sure.
You don't have to show the chat. You just look at them. And yes, and so these guys became
oh fuck. Okay.
yeah. Put it on the thing, and I can show the audience. So yeah, and they became a fascinated object of 4chan, and to become bogged was the term before, like, to get laurel lumed, which was to make yourself ugly through trying to become beautiful.
I'm very disappointed that the term bogged does not mean to like go out and like County Kildare and like make a wrong step off of the trail and just slowly start sinking down.
Can you
I haven't
guys
seen Seamus in a while.
Can you
Dot,
guys
dot,
guess?
dot.
Can you guys guess that the Bogdanov brothers died?
When they died?
How they died? What did they die from?
I think it's not going to be related to their horrible thing. I think it's going to be something ironic, like they get hit by a car.
Bankruptcy court.
They both died from COVID because they didn't get vaxxed.
Very on brand.
Yeah. All
right. John in the chat said, classical Looksmaxxing, late antique Looksmaxxing, early medieval Looksmaxxing, late medieval Looksmaxxing, early modern Looksmaxxing, which I found very, very funny.
Post-industrial Looksmaxxing.
Stuart said, is the classical hustle culture to get rich versus kind of a beauty grind set rather than money. I think there's relation, and it's interesting. But it's a funny thing where you can definitely improve your looks through methods, while you might not actually ever become richer through these means. But that doesn't mean you actually then become high status or you get the lady or anything like this. So in some sense, it's more likely to actually occur, in some sense, societally not. And of course, you are probably better off just becoming rich if you can shortcut that without becoming beautiful. But it did also remind me, when I think we were almost getting to this topic earlier, about whether Looksmaxxing is like meant to be universalist. And I think it is, at least in how Clavicula understands it. Because in that interview he did with, was it the Channel 8? That independent YouTube guy.
Oh.
9?
One of those.
Yeah, Channel 9.
The guy who used to be All Gas No Brakes.
Yes, him. He did an interview with Clavicula. And the point where Clavicula, not everything else, the point where Clavicula like stood up and walked out like absolutely furious and just couldn't take him seriously anymore was when he asked Andrew, is that his name, I think? He asked
Andrew Callahan.
Andrew Callahan, like, when you look up in the morning and you look at yourself, like, what do you want to change about yourself? When you look in the mirror, like, what do you want to change? And Callahan was like, nothing. I look at myself and I'm like, yeah, it's fine. I don't want to change anything. And Clavicula was like, you can't possibly be telling me the truth. And he stood up and got out. And he left the interview, which clearly to me means that he thinks that not just everyone should do this, but in some sense are already prepared to do so. You know, in like, they are just, everyone is like an incipient Looksmaxxer who hasn't got the methods, isn't self-actualizing, but they desire it in their heart. And I think it's obviously, it's not entirely false. He's obviously locked too far into a certain way of thinking and behaving. But I do find the idea that Andrew Callahan, a man who a couple of years ago had to like do a massive apology for not quite doing sexual assault, but for like being just like fucked up with that shit some way. The idea that he can look up in the morning and be like, I'm 100% good with everything, is to me bizarre. And I think Clavicula left the room because he thought Andrew Callahan was lying. And I feel like Andrew Callahan was lying. And if he wasn't, he should like become more self-aware.
I'm not sure he was lying. I think if you get into a certain level of success, you can kind of put aside questions of the self at that point. Like if you're able to just think about like, oh, what am I want to do, you can use that as a substitute for thinking about
You can just
who I
act
am.
in the world.
Yeah.
What do I want to be, right?
Exactly. No, who cares what I am? I am what I do. I am my effects.
I am the power that I have outside of myself.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that there's also a break in mentality between the status anxiety, FOMO, fundamentally insecure place that a lot of people have in the world. They're unsure of their status, they're unsure of their finances, they're unsure of how attractive they are, how they fit in socially with bigger communities. They're anxious about what, and they're especially, and I think it especially comes down to they're anxious what others think about them. That if you have internalized that type of anxiety, you will always be on the lookout for the imperfections, the failures. You'll fixate on the malapropism you made while you were ordering coffee for the rest of the day, being like, my God, she said, enjoy your coffee. And I said, you too.
I said,
what a moron. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. What a moron. How will I ever live this down?
And it was 12:03. Fuck.
Fuck. If only I had a time machine. This is the worst thing that has ever happened to anyone. And there's so much inside the culture which is engineered to excavate and move forward that impulse psychologically to bring out as much of that anxiety as possible. It's good for employers, good for vendors, it's good for entire industries that you fixate on what your shortcomings are, that you're not secure in who you are. And then there's this mentality that I'm going to surrender, trying to be sensitive about it. And it's like a towny peasant mindset where you're so well grounded.
Going to park the car, towny, or like or medieval peasant.
Both, because in each case, like the Red Sox are enough. My little square of heaven is enough. I don't need more than this. I don't have. I may recognize that others have more, and that there are other experiences which may include things that I would like to have but don't have. But that doesn't detract from the sufficiency of my situation right now and my fundamental alignment, my contentment with it. And I think Callahan is at that point of success. I agree, where he's no longer burdened by all of that anxiety, but it is as much a psychological matter as it is an objective sociological one, right? Like clavicular too should be, at this point, he should be clear, right? He should have left the gravity well of status and success anxiety. He's extremely famous, very well known. He could parlay that into financial security if he hasn't already. He could parlay that into all kinds of very desirable social roles. But as the chat out, guy looks absolutely miserable. He has like Asian high school senior, third in their class, sitting on the doorstep waiting for college admissions letters level of terror at external validation, whether it's going to come in, whether even worse than that, it's going to come in, but will it be good enough, right? Is it going to be like the Harvard, Stanford, MIT level, where, yes, you're really going to lord it over other people until you get to campus and then realize that the hierarchy games continue? Or is it Cornell? And then you might as well...
Down.
I know, right? At that point, like, you might as well just grow out your leg hairs and become a lesbian.
Do you guys ever remember me telling a Subway story? Kuba's coffee shop story reminded me. So when I played D&D, I played D&D with 2.5 autistic teenagers, as well as some other a very varied and interesting cast. But they had a lot of anxieties about going to Subway because they felt that when they went to Subway, always the same Subway, in a large village, that the staff there judged them. That the staff, when they ordered their...
Quick clarifying question. We are talking about the sandwich store Subway and not
Yes.
an underground train?
Yes. Okay, cool. Sandwich store.
In the UK, I believe they call them the sub-tube.
Yes, in Subway, they felt like the staff there judged them. That when they ordered their autistic sandwiches, which were like untoasted bread with cheese or whatever, I don't have to give the particular sandwich. You can imagine what the kind of sandwich was. They felt like the staff in there was judging them, and I gave them the normal advice, the advice that your mum says. People are paying much more attention to themselves than you. The person that's paying the most attention to yourself is you. Those people in the Subway don't hate you or disdain you or despise you. They aren't laughing at you behind the back of their hands. They forget about you as soon as you leave the door. On a subsequent day, not even on a day of the D&D, I went into that Subway with Fakey 13, occasionally has been on TIR. And we get up to the counter, and obviously we clearly came up as normies, because the first thing they started saying to us was, as soon as we'd ordered our shit, they were like, so these fucking kids come in here, and they'll order a sandwich, and it's only got fucking cheese on. I think Nathan was laughing normally because he hadn't heard the story, but I was just trying not to go hysterical because I was like, it's all incorrect. Those people in Subway, they fucking hate you guys. They just sat there. Anytime anyone comes in, they're like, so these fucking idiot kids, autistic fucking idiots, who'll order a untoasted sandwich with a bit of fucking ham on it.
Get a load of these assholes over here.
So yeah, if you're ever worried that someone is laughing behind your back, if you think they're staring at you, if you think they despise you or disdain you for your slight oddity, they're right. You're right. Your anxiety is correct. The people in Subway hate you.
Yeah.
I mean, as is their right. I like to assume that everyone hates me until proven otherwise.
It makes you stronger. I think that does actually sound like a Clivica approach to life. Like, assume everyone inherently hates you, so you need to beauty harder to get over it.
Yeah, I've gotta either mog them or charm them, and I don't really have any charm, so I have to be able to mog.
Yeah. You made charm your dump stat. All goes into charisma.
Some really great comments today, but I've mostly missed them because I've had to be logged in on my Subway story. And the various other things throughout. What are my notes? Any bits I haven't read out? Do you guys think a men's rights movement will ever actually emerge? Because I have my skepticisms. I feel like anyone that would actually do it kind of inherently despises the idea. That it will never really happen on the left, and the people on the right will always despise and disdain the idea of it because they want to be competitive. They don't want to actually ally with shit-stained Maguba.
It's entirely a move that you use in order to secure the support of a crucial group, right? Disaffected, angry, manipulable young men, ones that despise themselves so much that they'll take your advice to bone smash, right?
Yeah.
They're just fantastic foot soldiers. You can't ask for anything better, right? They will join your weird cult, give all their mother's money, live 7 to a tent, smelling of like farts and despair, but you're promising them a world in which women as a class are subordinate to them.
Yeah.
And that is, most of the time, you will never need to effectively deliver on that promise, because half of these guys are going to be killed in your ascent to glory of your movement. The other half, through that, the ones who survive more or less physically undamaged and still functional, that trial by fire will make them better versions of themselves just on a survival basis. I don't necessarily mean better, of course, morally or more psychologically healthy, but more capable, more confident, which then takes care of the woman problem without you even needing to achieve some kind of great legislative victory. Then within your movement, congratulations, you've recreated the male-male hierarchy where there's the seniors, let's say, right? Like the fourth years that can tyrannize all of the younger men, arguing that, you know, you haven't done the stuff, you haven't come out on top, we get to abuse you until you prove yourselves worthy of ascension to this august peak. So I think it's a little like, and this is where I think that the American conservative movement hit its ratcheting up problem. There's an excellent book by Thomas Frank, What's the Matter with Kansas, which argued that the pledge to end abortion and all of the sort of culture war, anti-gay posturing was a promise never to be fulfilled. It was designed to never actually be delivered on. Every year you say you're going to do it. Every year you're like, oh, Senate parliamentarian. Oh, we need a supermajority. Oh, we need this. The instant you actually take that step, you now have a new set of demands and a new set of problems. The whole point was to never do what Trump did, and no one else before him they understood what the limitations of it were. Similarly, this is a promise which, for a generation, it would behoove MAGA or whoever is trying to claim these guys not to deliver on. Because if you do, then the escalatory need built into these confrontational hierarchical social models means you have to open a new frontier, you have to deliver even more, you have to fash max harder.
Max is quite the thought.
Sixar is suggesting that Looksmaxxing is funded by Peter Thiel, which does probably have evil reasons to it, but I would suggest that Peter Thiel is also an appreciator of male beauty in itself.
Yes, exactly.
The 18 to 24 demographic.
This may just be his version of the modeling pipeline that Epstein had.
Yeah.
The fact that it
he must really value eyes above everything else. So you had J.D. Vance in his crew.
The moment that you join any teal organization, you get a Sephora bag with a variety of eyeliners. And it's like, I guess I can give this to my girlfriend. No, you will not.
You'll put it on if you want Series B funding.
Congratulations, your Department of Energy grant has been fully funded. Here's your makeup kit.
Which is, Spartan in its own way.
My kind of summing up, we haven't really reached the conclusion which I hope to draw. Not because I've been proven wrong in rhetorical combat, but just because we've been broken up into pieces. But what I wanted to suggest at the end, in the context of, okay, social activism doesn't improve people's lives in a direct, immediate way, or normally doesn't anyway, and often can make your life worse.
I don't think it does in the way that it attempts to.
Yeah.
Right.
And so
it can in other ways, but those are, knock-on effects.
Yeah. Which is why I want to suggest that social justice movements, leftist movements, groups, and so on, shouldn't view like social parts of the organization as like a tertiary frivolity that should not be taken seriously. You should have your workingsmen club, whatever the equivalent of that is today. You should have your DSA club. You should have the social organizing. You should have your nights out. You should have your nights in. You should have your stupid fucking movie nights. You should have various.
You should have your social service obligation, right?
Yeah.
Collectively going out and cleaning up a park, because that's how you turn incels into a gang.
Yeah, and it's light exercise too. Again, out of nature and whatever. These kind of structures, these kinds of acts and behavior should not be seen as like edge frivolities, but as things which are not completely central, because then you just turn into a fun club, but like the next tier down from actually doing whatever you're trying to achieve.
There's a recognition on the part of other more traditional formations that the social dimension, right, tying people together, giving them an outlet, creating a sense of collective identity, is just as essential a form of movement building than any type of political activity. You can't clock out, because this you're building a community along with a movement. And of course, if you already are embedded in a deep community, and this is why ultimately political mobilization, it can be challenging when a society is too atomized, because then reaching people at any kind of scale becomes challenging, and any group that's formed, it's very easy for it to become vociferous, break apart. People have to move around. People have different individual level pressures. But if you want to maintain the cohesion of an organization, a movement, a club in this type of environment, you need to think about the pastoral care, right? Having some social benefit, some sense of helping collectively your members find meaning and purpose and strength in one another. That dimension is extremely significant. One reason why Catholic organizations have the strength they do is that they have that pastoral care formation, that these collective rituals where they have to get together, that helps cement their sense of purpose, collective identity. It's something difficult to do when it's extremely challenging to build it from the ground up. Generally speaking, effective movements inherit a lot from previous versions of themselves, including both know-how, knowledge, charisma, legitimacy, and also just the physical resources that you need, right? A church is also a clubhouse when you're not worshiping in it. However, I think that there's
a daycare, and
exactly,
various other ways that make your actual life as a working person easier.
Yes, and I think one reason why active clubs, for instance, are in a lot of ways much more effective and risky than internet mobilizing is because they create, they'll take over a gym, they'll have spaces and activities, and they build in through their commitment to fitness this pastoral, socializing, mutual care element. And you can be hard on people organizationally if you're super supportive of their sort of body transformation journey.
And we're back to Looksmaxxing.
And now we're back to Looksmaxxing.
Do you guys have any big thoughts and feelings and desires on Looksmaxxing that we have yet to discuss or debate? This is really young me with a horrible fringe.
Wow.
I love the coat.
I was always wearing the fucking coat. It's the same coat in this image.
But what's the fringe? The gray sort of.
Oh right, so yeah, that was also So that actually this
is that a cape? Is it ermine? Or are you violating sumptuary laws?
Instead, it's a hat. I never wore the hat bit, but just here is a wolf's head.
Wait, what?
Well, no. I hadn't slain a beast. It was not, in fact, a real wolf's head, but it was as if there would be here, and then it'd be like wolf eyes and wolf ears and so on. So, like, almost on some furry bullshit, but not quite. But I carried it around because it had such enormous pockets that you could have, like, a full liter of apple juice in here, and then, like, a kefir in this one. Oh, and of course, these are paws.
Oh, those are. I see. The big, dangly, gray, furry bits are paws.
Yes.
Seems adjacent to furrydom might be a bit generous to it, but.
And I accidentally left on a bus, and that was the end of that story.
Damn.
So what was his name?
I'm not a namer of objects.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I meant the fursona that goes along with it.
Yeah.
Although that is an interesting.
You watch that bus drive away, and you're like, okay, I'm letting that part of myself die.
Yeah, I assume Kuba, you're going to get into that as furries as a way of transforming your look by just creating a new one.
Exactly. That there is this, in some ways, what could be argued is that Looksmaxxing does not go far enough. Right? There's this acceptance of a fundamental aesthetic limitation about sticking to what you were born with, and also trying to compete within aesthetic hierarchies that you've received.
Mm.
If we're going full cyberpunk and full transhuman, then why not be the only reason that the Bogdanov twins and the crazy cat lady have failed was because the technology wasn't quite there.
Yeah, they were too early.
As precisely.
They didn't put any silicone horns in. They're not doing anything weird with it.
Exactly. They're trying to hit this target, and rather than accepting that the target can be anything that they want, they force themselves into an escalation that they can't win. But maybe the solution is, horns, full body tattoos, the transformation of the self into something grander than human, to transcend maxing.
Yeah, of course. And there will hopefully be a point in the future where you can physically be anything that you want. And it will be interesting how beauty transforms in that case. But I expect what will happen beauty will fully break apart. Is a man in a mountain beautiful in the same sense? Not really. And of course, even at the moment, there probably are varying standards of beauty. Well, the most obvious one, obviously, being male and female. But it suggested that cultures have very distinct ideas of beauty. I think I've already brought up anyway. At least I brought up this much said fact of possible truth that Lucy Liu was not regarded as very attractive in China.
There's the celebrities that are held up as examples of Asian American beauty are not. It is not a circle, the Venn diagram between old country and new world beauty standards. And it's true of whites as well, right? Like there's certain kinds of looks that certainly get more of a premium in the United States than they do in Europe and vice versa. And it goes beyond fashion and accessories, but preference for certain kinds of features, the meaningfulness of skin color, for instance, right? Like for Europeans in a continent where everyone is Caucasian, pale skin is much less salient as an indicator of beauty, and indeed you get a huge bump if you can be exotic in the right way.
Yeah.
In Asia, skin bleaching is a gajillion-dollar industry, right?
Yeah.
That'll right there is a huge divergence. And feeding into that, working off of that, it's one of the main limitations of contemporary transhumanism, of self-invention through surgery and changes to one's appearance, is the way in which certain features are racially coded. And now, in a kind of post-woke world, there is enforcement. There's almost like an IP right to certain looks that is collectively owned by groups of people. So you don't get to be transracial.
Yeah.
Transgender, no problem. Transracial, ask Rachel Dolezal, right? Like, that will kill you. That will sink you immediately. There was the guy who tried to Korean Max, right? Later became a Christ Maxer. I would like to actually see him and Russell Brand see who could smog one another. But there, I don't know how good the technology would have to be to get over that type of social restriction, especially since it gets enforced on two sides. From a woke multicultural view, every culture that's considered to be sort of subordinate or lower status than the dominant one gets privileges and protections.
Yeah.
That you can't culturally, what's the term, appropriate.
Yeah.
Even things that don't imply a claim to identity. But if you're changing your face, your appearance, that is an identity claim. But it's also a line that reactionaries will want to enforce because they want to racialize hierarchies, and you can't have people. It becomes a type of passing, you know.
Yeah.
If we can use surgery and other forms of aesthetic recreation to become Korean, well, what's to stop the Koreans from trying to do that to pass as white, you know? And you will have that precise formulation, right? It's becoming something that is perceived to have lower status, but it is passing as something that is higher status, because intrinsically you have some amount of racial, ethnic status points. You can, in theory, from the reactionary perspective, surrender some through things like race mixing or voluntarily departing the promised land. But you can never win points that you weren't born with. At best, you might be able to individually move up a few points by being yourself on an identity basis, but then living up to the standards and serving the interests of more elite groups. But if you act like you belong and you're not just being suffered, that's the surest path to a lynching.
Did you guys see the latest Native American professor that proved not to be Native American? But like looking at him, you're like, he looks to be Native American to me. You didn't see this guy.
Tell me more.
Well, he was a professor who like was a professor of Native American studies, and then like he did a DNA test on himself or whatever, and proved to apparently not be Native American. But he looks 100% Native American to me. And I was thinking about it in that context, because it's like, it's not just appearance, right? Because he looks native. But then there's this other fact of like actual blood, you know, which he lacked. And therefore he was transformed out of this status, despite the fact, oh yeah, it was this guy. Thomas King, Canadian American, not Cherokee, it proved, apparently. Yeah, I'm looking at him and I'm like, yeah, he looks native. He looks a lot more native than I think a lot of people that are apparently native are.
Mm-hmm. What's his name again?
Thomas King.
Thomas King?
Yep.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say that he's like a Anu, maybe.
Oh shit!
He looks. Do you need to correct yourself, sir?
No. I just I accidentally I thought I deleted everyone off the screen for a second. So I'm trying to share with the audience, so we aren't just like babbling to ourselves. Share screen.
Yeah, it looks like you put on an op-ed.
Yeah, I looked at this guy and was like, "What do you mean he's not native?" Like, okay, I guess he isn't, but.
Let me put it this way: if you changed his eyes, then this is just Gerhard Schroeder,
right? But then, of course, you know, like. Don't be woke.
Now you have to find Gerhard Schroeder.
Races aren't very real, so like just the eyes can win. And I guess, but it's a bizarre thing of like, how did he mistakenly think he was native from a family background which did in fact make him native? That's made him look native. Like, of course, I'm sure it probably encouraged him to continue doing it when he looked in the mirror every day and was like, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, I also don't have a whole lot of trust in these like DNA tests.
Yeah, I mean, it would be sad if this like 90-year-old, yeah. It'd be sad if this like 90-year-old man just turned out to not be native because he did a test, but then actually it turned out he was.
That's an excellent point with the DNA tests, right? The way, my understanding is that the way that different markers are tagged with an ethnic identity is that people who self-report belonging to that identity might share a certain set of markers. And if you have,
I think it's also like just statistical. Like it is that those people tend to have this combination of gene markers.
Exactly. And if you have a homogeneous population that's been stable for a very long time, then maybe there'll be a higher proportion of markers shared by that group that don't exist externally, and vice versa. But Native Americans, especially in North America, you know, there's been so much mixing. There's the populations are low. The self-reporting is questionably meaningful. Let me put it this way: on the self-reporting, I think that's what is essentially meaningful, right? Your ethnic identity is what you do and how you live more than your blood quanta. My perspective. But that's not going to correlate if you have with a bunch of genetic markers if the population was heavily mixed with a variety of different groups. So you could belong in every meaningful sense to an ethnicity, but you don't have the 5 markers for Cherokee.
Yeah.
Because you got statistically unlucky, and maybe they shouldn't even be looking for Cherokee because actually you're a Choctaw that was adopted. You know, your family line belonged to a different indigenous group that was then picked up and assimilated into the one that you're looking for genetic indication.
Yeah, you could end up just with the genetic markers of like black and European, like the black and European parts of your ancestry, but then actually phenotypically end up looking native.
Yeah, and if you think about Latin America, you have combination, such a riotous mixing of phenotypes over so many generations that you might have the combination of physical features that would fit into an aesthetic category for virtually any group worldwide, right? You can find people from Latin America that look Asian or look black or look South Asian because of the incredible diversity of within their particular family lineage. But
I met an Indian
that
guy
at
with
all.
green eyes.
Yeah. I mean, thanks to my people, there's blue-eyed Haitians, right?
Yeah. It's a shame that there's.
It wasn't even slavery, right? Like,
it's a shame that
they came by it honestly.
These phenotypical kind of things very rarely like actually mix. Like it's very hard to produce someone that's like very solidly black and also has blue eyes. It just doesn't really happen.
Yeah. Well, one possibility, there's always been, when it comes to genetic manipulation in utero and the designer babies, the potential for genetically customizing your babies like a freaking avatar for a video game. Once we have granular level knowledge of how genes interact to produce phenotype, you might have that level of customization available to parents.
It's arguable you could do that with CRISPR with another round or two of funding, but it seems like there's some regulatory hurdles, and there are potentially issues in demand that make that.
I think that one Chinese geneticist was promising that he could do it, but he wasn't allowed to.
Well, now I'm thinking that the obvious constituency, the obvious market for this is the Chinese Communist Party, because you could tell them, just pick your 2 most loyal and capable cadres. Give us the embryos that they produce, and we will tweak them so that they can pass as Americans.
Oh yeah, I was going to answer this earlier. Ben is doing very little YouTube recently because he's very busy writing a book. He's compiling the podcasts of the guy I forget the name of.
Matt Christman.
Yep.
Yes.
He's doing the Cook blog book.
He's doing the Matt Christman book. And so he's very busy doing that. And so he's doing a lot less YouTube recently, which is not the reason he stopped doing this, but was the reason that he didn't then start doing it again.
Yes, he's compiling, he's doing a St. Paul tour, Christ Man.
Yeah. Did I tell you I played a bit more of Disco Elysium, Kuba?
How far? Wait, does that mean that you haven't finished it, or have you done another run through?
Oh no, I went from having played for like 20 minutes to having played for like an hour and a half. It's still very spiritually hard for me to overcome. But I got up to the race scientist guy, the hulking
Measurehead.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which I found he was very appealing.
Yes, I'm trying to find the optimum facial expression that would simultaneously convey my profound disappointment that you haven't already finished the game, together with my desire to encourage you to keep going without castigation or gatekeeping.
I mean, I wish I had a photograph of your face when in York Cathedral, I told you I hadn't played the game because the protagonist is ugly.
That's some incel bullshit right there. Like, you know, the clavicular. What did you do with Stefan?
I mean, it's clearly a very good game, and it's exactly because it's a good game that it has this effect on me. That because you have to play such like pathetic man, this pathetic, self-destructive, ruinous to himself mainly individual, who has all these dialogue options where I just have to like exit out of the conversation because I can't bring myself to say a single one of them. It's because exactly the game is so effective in all these ways that I can't bring myself to play it for any significant period.
For me, I find the attribute system to be absolute genius because apart from
Mainly because you have to be dog shit at some things, right?
Yep.
You have to be dog shit at some things, but the way in which the attributes are distributed, it reflects imperfectly. Of course, there's a lot of license taken in order to make it an appealing game dynamic, but there are sound neurological sounds for the types of buckets that they have, right? Like some of these, some of the characteristics are, it's a little like investing in different modules of your mental system or different forms of physical training, right? Like, and having them respond to you and act like a chorus rather than just being silent reflections, features, types of capital, if you will, that you're carrying around, that you, a unified you, is carrying around. That has a great affinity with this Janesian plural self theory of human psychology.
Oh, I just thought of something that I now really want to play, but I don't think is ever going to exist, which is a biopunk version of Disco Elysium where you are able to literally graft parts of other people's brains onto yours to gain access to their consciousness or skills.
There's an excellent Polish
expanding out,
yeah,
and you become more and more unstable the more consciousnesses you add into yourself.
There's that is an excellent game mechanic. It reminds me a little of the only sort of real counterpart to Disco Elysium that I would stack up is Planescape Torment, which
I thought you were going to say Pathologic.
Pathologic doesn't. Well, what I'm looking at is a very specific feature of it, which is the way you also start as an amnesiac in Planescape Torment, and as you go forward, you unlock that you've lived many times, you've died many times, and you begin to hear voices. You begin to interact with your memories as though they were different personalities existing simultaneously in you. So you begin to have the same chorus mentally that you have in Disco Elysium. The idea of absorbing other people's consciousness, there's I can't remember where I've seen this before.
So it's not a very strong mechanic, but it is a mechanic in Divinity, which is the people that made Baldur's Gate 3. where you can eat people's, when you're playing an elf, you can eat people's brains and get their memories and progress the plot that way. But I don't know what you were thinking of, people.
Well, it's not a video game. There's these. It's a type of sort of like psychological inner odyssey literature where different aspects of an individual's personality will take the persona of people they know. So it's the self communicating to the self, but through a constructed version of someone they've encountered that represents a particular element of the self that hasn't been integrated with the overall ego. I find the plural notion of psychological selfhood to be quite persuasive. There was an article, I think, from Less Wrong, and it's funny because I think that this may be the psychological counterpart to the radical self-transformation of Looksmaxxing, where they began with the notion of the Buddhist Tibetan notion of the tulpa, which is a variant version of yourself, a kind of doppelganger that can be projected with a distinct identity from who you are. And it pointed out that the cognition that we're aware of, that we're consciously aware of, that constitutes the ego's working as recognized by the ego, right? The self understanding the self to be at work is only a small fraction of all of the mental processes that are going on in your brain. Disco Elysium illustrates this really nicely. One of their skill sets, one of their attributes is visual calculus. And that's not a personality element. That's not a type of thinking that speaks. It's a thinking that occurs without thought, without verbalization, but it is its own module. You know, somebody who's blind has zero visual calculus. That's just not going to work for them. It's embodied in the eyes and certain parts of the brain that don't necessarily talk, that deliver information differently. But that doesn't mean they're not thinking, which in this particular example, you have at least two parallel processes going on in your brain. There's the part of your brain which is creating and preserving and verbalizing this inner monologue, which is your selfhood. And then there's this part of your brain which is simultaneously absorbing all of this visual information and creating a coherent interpretation of reality based on it. What's the relationship between the two? We kind of don't know. They might just be parallel processes inhabiting the same physical space and sharing the same information. But because it's not directly connected to the verbal ego generating center, we don't actually know how it thinks. Does it want things? You know, if you think about it, your body physically will want things that your conscious mind, your selfhood, may be indifferent to, may not be preoccupied with, may even know is bad for you, right? Like that's how addiction works. Addiction is in some ways a parallel cognitive system that's operating at the same time as these other ones. So the idea behind this post was that you could, through maintaining an inner dialogue with converting your inner monologue into a dialogue,
right?
Then attributing more and more agency, more and more of a gap between those two parties.
It seems dangerous.
Oh yes, oh absolutely. On this path, madness lies. But to create your own imaginary best friend, be your own doppelganger by having two personalities operating in the same brain. If you think about it, right, like that is not that dissimilar to the transformative body element of Looksmaxxing, right? Maybe create, instead of trying to fix what's wrong with the self that you have, use the self, what you have, to build a better self, and then let that guy take the wheel.
Well, I mean, I'm just this makes me think of that character in Blindsight with all the many parts that like why stop at two, right? Like why not build a mask to show for every different situation that you may find yourself in.
I mean, have you guys ever had like a multitudinal inner thing?
Yes.
Yeah, I used to have it when I was younger, but then I don't know, I stopped. I think there wasn't at some point there wasn't much disagreement going on with me, so it kind of just faded away.
For me, it was induced by ayahuasca.
Ah,
Not gonna lie, I'm that guy. But it was it was a very enlightening experience because I don't know how much of it is just disassociation classic, but it felt as though the part of me which was experiencing all of these sensations, not all of which were pleasant, right? Like there's a lot of throwing up involved with ayahuasca. Yeah. And I had a very traditional ceremony in Peru in classical Inca Tibetan yurt with a shaman named Marnie from South Florida.
Delightful.
And we had, of course, a yurt being a yurt, we'd all taken off our shoes. I wanted to go out into the garden at a certain point, and I walk into the dimly lit area with all our footwear, and all I see is writhing maggots.
Oh,
every shoe, a different bug. And that was the thing. The incipient disgust and panic that I felt was immediately cut off by what I experienced as a second voice telling me, like, dude, don't worry about it. You paid Marnie your $200. They got like 4.7 out of 5 on Yelp. The ayahuasca lasts 24 hours max. You're going to be right as rain in no time. They aren't any real maggots there. But you do have to find which maggots are yours because we're going to go outside.
You need to put those maggots on your feet.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, okay. Mine are the ones with the red backs and the tan-colored bellies. Oh, I think they're over here. Got you. Tried to get away from me.
Damn, these bugs got New Balance logos on them.
And it felt as though there was this rational, cool-headed part of me that could reassure the experiential part, which might be uneasy about this whole situation, by just providing this objective, facts-based, evidence-based information, where it's like, yeah, you're right. That's not something that I have to worry about.
Yeah, I think it would be nice to have that sort of thing ever happen to me. But whenever I ever started to spiral on psychedelics, I've fully been one man or laughed therefore.
Yeah, I feel like any amount of psychedelics I've ever done have not been enough to break my ego. It's been oh, okay, like, all right, that's cool.
I really think I think that with ayahuasca in particular, and the reason that I was drawn to it was at a formative age, I read Naked Lunch first as art and then as a checklist.
Bye soon.
And the one at the end, he had included a little dictionary of different psychoactive drugs with descriptions of their effects and a little Wikipedia light super junky entry on narcopharmacology. He identified ayahuasca mistakenly as yage, which I believe is one particular form or a name given to it by one particular group. and on the one hand expressed respect for its hallucinatory, psychoactive properties, and on the other hand pointed out that anywhere that this establishes itself, it immediately turns into a cult. And I'm like, that sounds like something I want to try. Sign me up. Ideally in a place that I can't easily move to, so I can resist the temptation to turn this into a lifestyle, unlike Marnie. But again, maybe Marnie's living her best life.
They're probably quite worn down by that powerful South American demon by now. I got into disassociatives because, you know, it might be cool to accidentally produce a multitudinal self in yourself. But what if you could just go down to zero? That I found fantastic.
There's no more selves?
Not being a being at all, just a pure abstraction. The last time I think I did.
Nirvana, the movie, the show, the band, the drug.
I'd sourced this one offline, which I thought was so fantastic. Compared to ketamine, it was completely clear-headed. It didn't make you sick. It was just a disassociative, pure disassociation, and you know, a vague feeling of highness or whatever. And it was after my friends had moved out of our house, but I'd asked my friend if we could use her room to do it in. She was like, "Yeah, sure." And it was like being in the Matrix or something, because this room was just like a stripped bed, a stripped desk, and that was it basically. And it felt like in the Matrix when they like give you a room or whatever, but like just the absolute minimum. And so that just felt like the entire world that we didn't like just jacked ourselves into, and then got in there and lost ourselves as any peculiarities, and then just had a fun time. While you weren't here, Kuba, I suggested that next week we could do on Vice signaling.
Oh, I like that. The Chinese professor, I can't remember his name because I don't respect him.
The idiot.
Yes, that precisely. That's the one.
Well, also, not a professor. He's a teacher at like a private high school.
Exactly, he's a fraud. I like the idea that if you show up to China and you ask anybody, like, "Oh, what's your opinion on the Chinese professor?" and they're completely perplexed. You mean we have more than one? And you're like, "The idiot." Oh, yeah, the YouTube guy. Yeah, that, of course. Sorry. I didn't know that you meant the Chinese professor. Yeah, he sucks. His theory of the Iran war, he's got an entire giant anti-Semitic
his anti-Semitism is weird. It's like he's created his own version of anti-Semitism that's like like Judaism was created as a, what is it, like a psyop by the Persian Empire or like the Mughals or something. Like it's bizarre. I don't know how
your 2,500 year religion. It's actually only 1,300 years old. Fucking shitlords owned.
It's like I think he's a brilliant mind of some sort.
A very creative man.
Yes.
One might say. But yeah, I was thinking about vice signaling in the context of us now living post the construction of the Tower of Babel. I saw it's the increasingly fantastic thing I see on Reddit, where someone will just reply in one language and someone will reply in another, and they'll just go back and forth because you can just so easily translate stuff. And now, especially on Twitter, everything's automatically translated without you asking for it. So it generally just feels that languages have been abolished, the divisions between mankind have gone. And in the context of vice signaling, that means the previous Israeli thing, where they would say one thing in English and another thing in Hebrew, no longer works, no longer can be a thing. And so there's a real breakthrough in Israeli vice signaling. And I think it's interesting in the context of like, how much do the ideals of the Bronze Age still appeal to us today?
I think that I have to say that, and this is coming from a Polish Gentile, Asian anti-Semitism is good stuff. Like, it's not, it's a little like their Italian food. It's not right, but it's delicious. And
yeah, I mean, it's often like, well, clearly we need to get these guys on side. Look at them.
Precisely, Operation Fugu.
Do you know the
That
story
is
about the rabbi in Japanese occupied Shanghai?
I don't know. It sounds like you know the specifics better than I do, but I think I know where this is going.
So this is World War II. The Nazis put in a request to have the Jewish population of Shanghai transferred over to European control. They want to put them in a camp, and so the Japanese commander finds a representative to talk to of the Jewish community, and asks, a little confused, like, why did these Europeans want, like, you other European group, like, what's going on here? Why do they single you out? The rabbi, picking on his toes, coming up with the objectively correct answer is, no, they hate us because we too are Oriental. And the Japanese never took it over.
So, have you guys heard of Operation Fugu?
I don't think I have.
I assume so. Go on and tell me what it is, but I'm sure I know the thing, if not by name.
So, fugu is, of course, the toxic pufferfish, which, if cut correctly, if prepared in the right way, is a delicious treat, but can be toxic if treated without the appropriate level of expertise and caution. This was the name given to a secret Japanese program to resettle European Jews across the Trans-Siberian Railroad into Manchuria and China, the sphere of influence. Because Japan first encountered Judaism through European contact, of course, right? Yeah. It's not an indigenous religion to East Asia. And they learned secondhand anti-Semitism, but without having that Christ killer foundation of intrinsic mal-identification, right? Intrinsic.
Yeah, we're not offended by their immense crimes. Like, it doesn't nothing to do with us.
Exactly.
Right, cool. Wait, and these guys they got something. They've spec'd into a special class.
You got away with sacrificing babies for 2,000 years?
Damn.
That's something we could use.
And this is cemented during the Russo-Japanese War, when the Northern European, the sort of Eurasian experts, the Russophone speakers in the Japanese military bureaucracy, get their hands on all of these documents seized in Harbin and Port Arthur and elsewhere, including the Protocols of the Elders of Zion, right? Which they don't know is a forgery, right? They treat as absolutely a legitimate report, a true document. And they're flipping through it, and they're like, these guys are awesome. This conspiracy, they're so smart, they're crafty. That's something we respect. And they're good at money. They're little money gnomes. You can just set them loose and they'll create profit out of nothing. We've got to get these guys. We've got to get some of this shit over here. And
give us some of the magic money people. We want the magic money people.
Exactly. I don't know why you're getting rid of your magic money people, but we'll take them. And that's the essence of Operation Fugu, right? This is a potentially toxic and dangerous segment of the population, but it can turn into the most delicious sushi ever if approached with the proper respect and caution. So there were, I think, there were certainly tens of thousands. I don't know if it was 100,000 or more, but there were certainly tens of thousands of European Jews that were receiving these visas to transit across the Trans-Siberian Railroad or get to Japanese territory in other ways. It could have been even more. This could have been an outlet that prevented some of the genocide of the Holocaust if it were not for Operation Barbarossa severing that connection, right? But it took a while. It took a remarkably long time for the Japanese occupational authorities to realize, you know, we've been thinking that we're not giving them the right matzah, or not, that there's been some error in our assimilationist project because we're not getting the magic money gnomes to magic money enough. We're not getting the outcomes we're expecting. Plus, whenever we call them in to try to negotiate peace through their connections with international Bolshevism and Wall Street, they somehow, they look at us like we're crazy and politely smile and nod, and then nothing happens, right? Are they holding out on us, or are they just people? Because
it's a hard question.
You were expecting fugu and you're giving us tuna. What kind of bullshit is this?
Just normal guys, just innocent men.
Just innocent men. And what good is that?
Walking to the Japanese, fuck no.
Yeah.
We should cease.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, have the audience had enough of our?
We've been gaining people for the last 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Oh my god, we've gone so far from Looksmaxxing.
Yeah, we're magical money people maxing.
Every time we start a show on a specific topic, I don't think it, like, mapping where we go with it is difficult to do before we start. I think we never stick on topic.
I think it's the thing of, like, we drift off, and then I start reading another random bit of my notes, and I grab us back on the rails, and then we go off again, and I read a bit of my notes and grab us back on the rails. And then at some point I run out my notes, and that happened about 45 minutes ago.
The chat is where you go when you're running on empty. Because our chat is insightful and delightful.
Yeah, the chat has been great today. I haven't been able to pay enough attention to it. And I'm like wondering if there's some way I can actually adjust this interface so I can actually see more of chat. But I don't think it's actually possible.
But what does your screen look like?
Should I put a screenshot of my screen on the screen?
That would be diagnostically useful. Plus, it might trigger the plural self, right? You never know what'll open that door for you, and allowing the other Stefan to come in.
I have to wait a couple of minutes because my screenshot folder is so large, it takes like minutes to index. Oh no, there we go. And it did. Oh, there it is.
So, you know that. Oh, I see your issue. You should. I would recommend to you that you link your YouTube to this, because I can toggle to the. Oh no, you're seeing the live chat on the right side of the screen. I don't know what more you want.
Well, I just want it to be bigger. I want to be able to perceive more comments at once.
At once, yeah. In my setup, I've got 3 screens. Never throw away a screen, and that lets
I guess
me
that would be
more.
one solution to have. I think because YouTube chat itself on YouTube would show me more at once.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly. There's also, you begin to notice some discrepancies too, right? The chat that comes in through StreamYard will occasionally contain entries that don't show up which I think might be auto-moderated or something.
It's
Uh,
not. It's because we're also live on Give Them an Argument, Kuba.
Yeah.
I see.
And there's also the Twitch chat, which very rarely, but sometimes we have a a lost gaming fan that wanders into our
Yeah,
Twitch
I put it
stream.
on the Twitter now, even though the Twitter views are all botted. I just put it on the Twitter view to like for ego reasons because it makes the number look bigger.
Okay, what about 1 week we could go on Twitter and just make a Disco Elysium character?
Okay. I was going to say that the stratagem to make sure I play Disco Elysium is to set a date for a show in the future where we talk about it. And in that case, I have to play it by X date.
Man.
Oh no, do I have to replay Disco Elysium? What a horrible tragedy.
Video games.
Oh, do you guys have an opinion on Fear and Hunger or Fear and Hunger 2?
So I literally can't look at it because I'm in the UK and I don't have a credit card.
I thought you were going to say that you can't look. Mm-hmm. I thought that you were going to say that you can't look at it because the necromancer is just your Gollum-like doppelganger.
He doesn't mog.
He doesn't mog. No, he's you without the riz.
No, yeah, I literally cannot view it in the UK. The only way I could view it is if I registered a credit card on Steam. Which I don't own.
Huh.
So I wanted to see Fear and Hunger, but I cannot.
That's there's the I know it more from the YouTube interpretation experience than the actual gameplay. I started it a couple of times and it really it's pretty abusive when it comes to the user experience.
Just looking at Rizla's stuff.
Are you laughing at the comment? You laughing at the comment or the Fear and Hunger version of you?
The Fear and Hunger version of me.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is the hair, but you also have a similar head shape, and I
see it in the nose too.
Again, I hasten to add that this is the Gollum Grima Wormtongue version of you, not the.
I like him.
This is the Looksmaxxing, Stefan.
The Looksmaxxing.
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 No, I like him. I think he's he looks neat and evil.
He does have a good outfit, right? Like, I could see somebody rocking that at like a goth club.
If we do in fact decide to do that, yeah, we'll warn about it on a subsequent show.
Mm-hmm. That could be fun. It's like a book club.
Yeah. I'm eeped up and I need to down another 750 milliliters of water. So say goodbye, friends.
Goodbye, friends.
Goodbye, friends.
Bye.
Thanks for watching, everyone. Like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe. Give Jason money so that we can have more than 2 people on the fucking StreamYard thing. So that every weekend, Jason doesn't have to remove me, add Toussaint, and then the next day remove me so that he can add Toussaint back. Bye.
Bye.
Start eating that trash can.
I already am eating from the trash can all the time.